Domestic violence and abuse. What do you do when a mum phones to say her child will be late in, as there has been an argument and her husband has taken her purse with her Oyster card? What do you do at parents' evening when you notice a mum has marks round her neck? Do you ask her about them and listen to her? And do you know what to do to help? Every week, 2 women in the UK are killed by their partner, and 3 women commit suicide as a result of domestic abuse. 1 in 4 women will experience domestic abuse in their life. Men can also be victims. The definition of domestic violence and abuse is any incident or pattern of incidents of controlling, coercive, threatening behaviour, violence or abuse between those aged 16 or over who are or have been intimate partners or family members, regardless of gender or sexuality. Children living in a home where there is domestic abuse are in need of protection. Children who see or hear domestic abuse will be suffering from emotional and psychological harm. On average, victims live with domestic abuse for nearly 3 years before getting help. Most victims try to get help about 5 times from professionals before they got the help that stopped the abuse. Schools can play a really important part. They can spot the signs and symptoms and refer victims to the organisations that can help them. Domestic violence and abuse can include destructive criticism and verbal abuse, such as shouting and name-calling, pressure tactics, such as withholding money or threatening to report you to social services, disrespect, such as persistently putting you down in front of others, isolation, including monitoring or blocking phone calls or stopping you seeing friends, harassment, including checking up on you and accompanying you everywhere you go. Threats, including using physical size to intimidate you or breaking things. Sexual violence, physical violence, denial, such as saying the abuse doesn't happen or that you caused it. Changes in a child's behaviour, appearance, health, mental health, ability to learn and attitude can be signs that domestic violence and abuse is occurring. The NSPCC says, mums or dads who suffer domestic abuse don't always realise how it affects their child. They might think that because their child doesn't see what's happening, that they're not affected. But we know that living in a home where domestic abuse takes place can be really harmful for a child. Interventions will need to involve the abused parent as well as the child. In protecting parents, we are protecting children. In an emergency, always call 999. The recording of the incident by the police helps protect the victim and the children. If a victim is in immediate danger, they should always call the police. Tell them to dial 999 if it is an emergency and press 55 if they can't talk. The police have a duty to protect and help the victim. If an adult tells you about a domestic violence and abuse incident, encourage the victim to call the free 24-hour National Domestic Violence Helpline 0808 2000 247. The Metropolitan Police's Operation Encompass helps police and schools work together to provide emotional and practical help to children. The system ensures that when police are called to an incident of domestic abuse, where there are children in the household who have experienced the domestic incident, the police will inform the designated safeguarding lead in the children's school. Whilst anyone can suffer domestic abuse, women are more likely to experience multiple incidents of abuse, different types of domestic abuse, and in particular, sexual violence. Anyone can experience domestic abuse, regardless of race, ethnic or religious group, sexuality, class or disability. But some women who experience other forms of discrimination may face greater barriers in disclosing abuse and finding help. It can be hard for someone to admit, even to themselves, that they are a victim. but this is the first step to getting help. No one has the right to abuse a person. Everyone has the right to be safe. Ignoring violence is dangerous. Violence rarely happens only once. Usually the violence becomes more serious the longer it carries on. How might someone feel as a victim? They may feel that they are in some way to blame, that if they change, the abuse will stop. They may feel that it is their problem and they have to solve it all by themselves. They may feel embarrassed or ashamed that this is happening to them. They may fear that things will get worse if they try to challenge the abuse. They may fear family or community disapproval or rejection if they take action to protect themselves. They may love the person who abuses them and want their relationship to work. They may keep hoping that things will change. The abuser may even promise that they will change. The fact is, unless a person takes full responsibility for their abusive actions and gets specialist help, chances are they will not change. Schools need to become familiar with what domestic violence and abuse are, to know signs and symptoms, to know how to respond effectively, and to have a zero-tolerance approach. Schools can make a huge difference in tackling domestic violence and abuse.